The experience of sheltering in place when you live in the woods during an ice storm is kind of terrifying. It started kind of in the evening on February 12th, and we had freezing rain all night long and all day on the 13th. And during all of that time, we could hear all around us trees and branches just snapping, cracking, falling, breaking other branches, occasional very large thuds. And then by the morning on the 14th, it had started raining and the temperatures had come up. And then the sun came out for a while too. And the ice was so thick on all the trees that now, with the temperatures coming up and the sun coming out, the ice was starting to melt off, and it would melt underneath, and then we'd have these big ice falls just cascading off of the fir trees. And you just kind of have to hope nothing falls towards the house or your cars or animals if you have them. We basically live, our property is mostly wooded. We basically live in the woods. So the potential for all of that was really pretty great. Astoundingly, none of our buildings were really damaged. None of our cars were damaged, and nobody has been hurt. It's really, really amazing to me, considering how much tree damage we have, how many trees came down, and how much cleanup there is to do now. So for a couple of days, it was pretty dicey around here. We stayed inside except to go feed the chickens. Like literally nobody go outside. It just wasn't safe. Everything you just saw is damage that's only on our property, and that is probably not all of it. There's still about a third of the woods at the back of the property that we can't access yet because the trails have all have trees down and branches down in them and over them and all through the woods, not just on the trails. And we can't get back there yet. While this ice storm was going on, for about 36 hours we had no electricity, and it got down into the 40s inside the house. This was the second natural disaster we've weathered during the pandemic in about 5 months' time, where we could not leave the house and we didn't have power. We are incredibly fortunate in both disasters. The first one was in September when the wildfires were so bad here and the smoke got so thick that it actually blotted out the sun for a day. And then this one with the ice storm. In both cases, we had no power and we could not go outside the house. It was not safe to be outside the house. In one case because of smoke, and in the other case because of falling ice and trees and branches. And then secondary behind the natural disasters is the pandemic. Even if we would have wanted to leave here, where do you go? So after this having happened twice in 5 months' time, where we were confined here and short on resources, we've decided to change course a bit and really focus on infrastructure. We've been focusing on infrastructure for 2.5 years since we bought this property, and we have gardens in place. The barn is much cleaner and in better condition than it was, although it's still not done. A lot of renovations were done inside the house. We built a chicken coop. I brought chickens in. We've done part of the renovations on the greenhouse. We've even done some landscaping and stuff. We've done a lot, and it's all infrastructure, but it wasn't like the basics infrastructure. It was just the infrastructure for, planning for this land and what we want to do with it. So we're going to shift our focus a bit now. This year I was going to try to extend the gardens quite a bit and bring in more livestock, probably for dairy, to expand our food sources, and really dig into food preservation, a variety of different types, and expand on what I've already learned and expand how much we do with food preservation. We're still going to do a little bit of all those things, but instead of diving headlong into that, we're going to shift a good portion of our focus towards some of the basic survival things, at least for the 1 to 3 week survival type of stuff, as a beginning point. So we need to secure alternative water sources, both potable and non-potable sources, some measure of electricity to support food storage at least, and probably a little bit more, and fuel to support that, and then some way, preferably multiple ways, to heat, at least in some areas, if we don't have electricity, if we lose our power. I've been very fortunate, and I'm taking this as an opportunity, not only to change our focus and get more of our basics in place, but also it's opened up opportunities on our land that I don't think we would have necessarily considered before. Because of where some certain trees came down, we're actually going to have to do a little more land clearing than I wanted to do behind the house at the beginning of where the largest part of our woods start, which happens to be right behind the garden, where the garden is right now. Once we clear out the broken and damaged trees and all the underbrush that we were already going to clear out, we're going to open up maybe a half an acre or more of land that is not only open land where I can put more garden beds, but it's also, there's less trees in the way of the sun, so we can get more sun. And also on one side of the property, just over the property line on our neighbor's property, they lost several trees that also opened up sunshine to our property. So, in some cases, we never could have decided to cut down our neighbor's trees to allow more sunshine in. We never would have considered probably clearing as many trees as we're going to back behind the garden, because they were otherwise healthy, they were good looking, and we get a tax break to keep this property wooded. So other than regular management, we can't just, we can't have it logged. Even though we do have some sizable Douglas fir trees and such in here. So it's not something we would have considered without them having been damaged. But now we're going to have to take down all the damaged trees or the dangerous trees, and it's going to open up quite a bit of land. So we'll actually have more of a backyard, we'll have more garden, we'll have more sunshine. I'm really excited about garden season coming up, and potentially about some new animals, so stay tuned and we'll catch you on that next video. Blessed be.